Hey, Legal Rebels, this is Tom Martin. I'm the founder of LawDroid, and this is my podcast, LawDroid Manifesto, where I interview legal innovators about how they do what they do.
In this episode, I interview Kim Bennett, co-founder of Fidu and managing attorney of Kay Bennett Law, whose pioneering work in subscription and flat fee legal services has empowered lawyers to build sustainable practices while expanding access to justice for underserved communities.
Welcome to the LawDroid Manifesto podcast. I'm Tom Martin, your host, and I'm very lucky today to have Kim Bennett on. This is going to be a good show. She is the co-founder of Fidu, and she is also the founder and managing attorney of Kay Bennett Law. So she has the background of being an attorney. She's also an entrepreneur, and she's done a lot of consulting strategy, and she is an all-around amazing person. And I've known her for years, and I'm very glad to have her on my show. How you doing today, Kim?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. Are you in Atlanta today, or are you traveling around?
Nope, I'm in Atlanta. This is the first month out of the year I have not been traveling. Actually, I'm staying in Atlanta, Georgia for the entire month.
Right now, for everyone, this might come out pretty soon, but it's, the middle of December. We're all kind of getting ready for the holidays and, doing a little bit less, hopefully. Are you?
A little less, not quite yet. I think, coming into the startup life, time changes a little bit. Like the work that you need to do changes a little bit. So not like it was in my firm world, but definitely we're in the strategy mode right now. So less, not necessarily, but really doubling down on what's necessary and what was noisy from this year and how do we move forward in 2026.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the kind of time of year to think about next year and what we're going to do, how we're going to do it differently. Any preview of anything that comes to mind that you want to give us a little teaser now that we can visit on the back end of this?
Yeah, I wrote this post the other day on LinkedIn about we did 35, well, I did specifically 35 plus trainings to our Fidu community. So we'll still be doing that, doubling down on subscription and flat fee legal services, but our design, subscription and flat fee design training is relaunching in the top of the year. There's some amazing new features coming, which I'm not going to preview yet. But yeah, we have, of course, we're in strategic planning. So some are going to make it to the 2026 world. Some will not. But we are excited about the direction that we're taking in the platform and kind of where we see the industry going. But yeah, I would say our accelerator is a big thing. So if you're listening to this and you're in the new year, come check us out and see if it's the right thing for you if you're looking to get additional support in designing your subscription or flat fee service. But you'll see us at more events, I think, this year. We'll be at a few more and popping up in new places that we hadn't been in 2025.
All right. Well, for the audience, I mean, Kim has been way ahead of the curve on subscriptions and flat fees for years now. It's probably a little easier to speak to people and get them to buy in now, right, than let's say 5 years ago.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, with the changes that are taking place, we've talked about the billable hour for years, but right now there's a lot of downward pressure on that because of AI and technology and where we're headed. And then, forces us to think of what's the alternative. And so you're right there. You've been talking about it, subscriptions and flat fees. So for those that might not be familiar with Fidu, can you give us a snapshot of what it does?
Yeah, so Fidu is the operating layer for a subscription and a flat fee law firm or legal adjacent business, legal business, right? We support law firms who are selling subscription or flat fee legal services to their clients, and we do everything that supports from engagement to disengagement. So onboarding, engagement signing, delivery of the subscription, usage tracking, scope management, billing payments, the things that you think about. But not just billing and payments, but also delivery, and then helping them upsell as well. So really thinking about shifting from the model of traditional legal services to value-based legal services that are delivered through a subscription or flat fee model.
You support a lawyer throughout that whole user client experience from end to end.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
from like the very intake to the entire service delivery, and then hopefully capturing their good experience.
Exactly. Yep. That's our goal is so like today, a firm has a way to deliver a trademark, a contract to file, any filing with court. That's amazing. The tools will continue to help you do that better. But what we're not doing is really thinking about on the other side of how the client receives that, how the client engages with that, how the client, and yes, we have portals and things that exist, but those are really meant to support the firm and not really to support the client's understanding, usage, implementation, overall big North Star of what they're trying to accomplish in their life. And so we take the position that we want to center the client. And so we're bringing this idea of what client-centered legal services actually looks like. It requires a robust, dedicated, focused platform that thinks about that same client journey that you're doing every single day in your firm when you're drafting and you're writing and you're communicating, but from the client's perspective, from the time they said, okay, you're the firm that I want to hire, you're the firm that I want to support me to have a happy life post-divorce, to help me manage through a difficult criminal case, to, help me file that first trademark and grow my brand and get it on shelves, right? When they say yes, then what happens? We do small things, but we're not centering the client. And we really want to build a business model that helps the firm grow sustainably, helps the client get ease and clarity, and then actually expands who can be serviced by an industry that doesn't serve the 80%. So yeah, we really are thinking about what the client is feeling from the time that they say, yes, they want to hire you, pay you, to the time that it's time to offboard them. So all process and systems, and of course, AI that support that.
Well, I think that's a fantastic 1-2 punch, right? Like the client-centered design of it, but also like the holistic view of it, that it's an
Yes.
end-to-end process, because that's what lawyers need. That's what clients need.
Yes. Yep. So we're excited.
Well, with that, kind of a preview for later, we'll talk a bit more in depth about that. But as my audience knows, I want to get into your origin story. So you're currently in Atlanta. Did you grow up there?
No, I'm from New York, New Jersey area. I grew up between both states. So born and then raised to a certain age in New York, then moved to New Jersey for like my middle years, and then ended my high school years in New York before coming to Atlanta for college. So I'm a product of divorce. So, I learned a lot in those formative years. But yeah, so New York, New Jersey is where most of my family's from via the Caribbean.
Where in the Caribbean?
So a little Jamaica, Barbados, and then Honduras.
Nice.
And Antigua. We're a mixture of the Caribbean islands. So Antigua and Jamaica are the two dominant ones, with, of course, being influenced by Barbados and a little less by Honduras.
Some Latin influence there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nice.
Yep.
When you grew up in New York and New Jersey, like, what was the look and feel for you when you were a kid growing up?
Yeah.
Like, what was that like?
Very different neighborhoods, because I say I grew up as a privileged Black kid, which is always like interesting conversation, right? Especially in this world. But that means like I'm a second generation lawyer. So my father is a lawyer. My mom is not. Her career took her through education, and then she went into administration, but didn't start her career there. So she got her degree later in life and then kind of continued to grow. Then my bonus mom is in accounting and in government. I had a childhood that was, in our extended family, we grew up, with the housekeeper, with like, playing a ton of sports, living in the suburbs when I was in Jersey, to why my other family side was in the city, like living in, Manhattan or Queens. And it's just a very different lifestyle and just experience. And so I think I had the opportunity to see the world from both perspectives growing up. And like I said, I'm a child of divorce. So that lent itself to a lot of other friction, honestly, truthfully, in my life that was hard growing up. But I think all those experiences kind of led me to where I was today. So what did it look like, my neighborhood? New York neighborhood looked like a lot of people who look like me, kids playing in the street. I grew up between New York, between Queens and Manhattan. So Manhattan, going to the corner store, getting my hair done, listening to, like, we were in Washington Heights area, so a lot of like Spanish music and, a lot of cultural and Caribbean cultural influences in New York. And then in New Jersey, it was quite the opposite. We were the only Black family. I used to say like 4 Black kids in my school. 3 of us were related because 2 of them were my brothers. So like we were like the only, and I had some difficult experiences then as a kid. So I was either in a very culturally diverse neighborhood, New York, very not culturally diverse, at least in New Jersey with some, but not much. Yeah.
Did you have a big family? Like a lot of, you had a couple brothers, or how many brothers and
Yeah, so I
sisters?
have two brothers, older, younger. My youngest brother now lives in Brazil, and he's been there for over 10 years. My older brother is actually in Georgia as well, so I get to see him a lot more. But we both all moved around. Were in between New York and New Jersey growing up. So yeah, two siblings, and then like extended cousins and family members that kind of feel like sisters. That I would say.
Well, that gives us a good, feel for where you grew up in your neighborhood. You mentioned that your father is a lawyer, and your mom, she was working in education. Either one of them, like naturally, we might think that your father kind of, you know, not pushed you towards, but gave you the idea of pursuing a legal career. But, what kind of lessons learned did you get from your parents? Like, what were some ways that they excited you about different things that made a difference in your life?
Yeah, so definitely did not want to be a lawyer because my father was a lawyer. So I had zero desire to be a lawyer. Actually went to school to be a doctor. That's a whole other story. And I don't like blood. So anyway, there's that.
Yeah.
But my parents instilled in me, and I would say my extended family too, my mother's mother, my grandmother was very much into politics and into education and thought that being involved civically as well as getting a sound education could give you opportunity, but you don't want to forget where you came from, how you got here, the struggles your families had or your ancestors had. So I feel like my parents did that and my grandparents influenced that. But like what I learned from them both was like, what it looks like to work hard, of course, because they sacrificed a ton for us to get to where we are today. They instilled in me pride in who I am, particularly growing up in a neighborhood where a lot of people didn't look like me. It was difficult. And got called the names or got picked to add a little bit. And I mean, I was a kid that was strong and okay with it, but there were moments I came home crying and there were moments that I had difficulty. So I think getting more comfortable with who I am and it's okay to not look like everyone else or to your food be different or, the way your family is structured is different and none of those things are bad and so I think my family and my parents in particular try to help do that in their own ways. Of course, like I said, divorce was difficult. So my parents did not get along when I was little. So there's a lot and lessons there. But individually, both my moms, my bonus mom and my mom and my dad, they really tried to help us think about education. For me, it was like get A's, get A's, get A's, get A's, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Play sports and get involved in things, be kind to others. I give my grandmother the hat tip to like probably how I started getting into the law and caring about this type of space because she was so civically inclined and was like someone who would go out and talk about politics and talk about what's happening and she died when I was 10, so like that is a young kid remembering that, so like
Yeah.
and just like taught me that like entrepreneurship wasn't a thing in my family, so that's not kind of where that came from. I think life led to entrepreneurship, quite honestly. But the saying is like you need to like do a little bit more to kind of show your value, unfortunately. And
Mm.
while they were realistic with it, they also tried to help me to also be okay with being different. Like I knew I had to do more. I knew I had to show up better. I knew very young that in school that for me to be the kid that was in the advanced classes that I had to show and prove a little bit more than maybe my peers. But I didn't feel like it was as much of a burden until I got older. So they sheltered me from some of that feeling while also making sure I showed up that way. I don't know if that describes it well, but
Well, let me ask you just a little bit more about that,
mhm.
because a lot of what you're saying I connect with. I've had a similar experience. But I also know that sometimes when people hear about feeling different, there weren't as many people that look like me. And they go like, well, there's different people, what's the big deal? Sure, these type of people, that type of people, but we all get things done. Like, why should it affect you? You probably heard that too. And
Mhm.
how do you respond to that? Like, why does it matter?
Yeah. I think because fast forward to where I am in life today, some of the kids I grew up with, sometimes private message me on Facebook about like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't realize it was that difficult, or I didn't realize what was happening. And, they were younger, so there's just things that they're not going to see. But we had to grow up faster. We had to recognize slightly different ways adults interacted. You just had to be aware of your surroundings and what that meant every single time you stepped into a space. And for me, as I got older, as a teenager, that meant I no longer felt safe in a certain neighborhood, which meant I moved back to New York, and because I needed more diversity around me, because it just didn't feel like a safe space anymore to be in my high school. But I think it causes that. Like if I wasn't strong enough, if I didn't have the support structure of family, if I wasn't a kid that, had the ability to learn the way I did, process the way I did, I don't know how that could have shaped my trajectory, because I saw it shape some of my other friends' trajectories in ways that weren't necessarily positive. But it's important because we all have different perspectives and different experiences that led us to take action in our life. Every single thing that's happened in my life has led me to where I am today. And to say it's the same for me and for the next Black female legal tech founder, well, we're going to have something different. And giving space to that allows for us to all design better, show up better, support more people, because our perspective is just simply one. And I think when you're talking about diverse folks and their perspective, particularly in legal, we are so built in a space that never thought about other people enough, that we need to elevate more of these voices, because that is why 80% of legal needs are left unmet, right? Because like literally someone can say, oh, this is not an issue for you. I have no issue with it. And that's because that's your small version of the world. If we start understanding that everyone has a version of the world, and if that we don't start to address those versions, we end up with where we are today in legal. And I think legal is the manifestation. The 80%, untapped, latent legal market, all the things we all say, it's because we have a very narrow view of the world. It's because we have a very narrow view of the various perspectives of people interacting with the legal system. It's because we're not being open to hearing someone else's perspective. And I think if we hear more perspectives, we can solve more problems, we can get more creative. And then I'll just say this one last thing. I think, growing up in neighborhoods where, like in New York, $1 cabs were a thing. Like $1 cab was a cab you can flag down for $1 growing up, and it would take you from point A to point B. It was an alternative to a bus, because the bus took too long, because the bus wasn't frequent. And so you weren't in neighborhoods in New York like we would call old school double fare zones. It would get us from A to B faster. It got me to high school faster, right? Instead of an hour and a half, it might shave off 20 minutes to me to get to high school, 30 minutes. So it was important. Fast forward today, we have Uber. You know what Uber is? The manifestation of $1 cab. But because whoever created the $1 cab didn't have probably access to the same capital that someone who then created Uber, it took us too long to get to Uber. So imagine if we brought more perspective in, how many things we can solve faster, with more clarity, and with real life experiences to boot.
There's so much to unpack there. It's amazing. But yeah, deeply insightful. And I totally agree that we can learn a lot from each other if we listen and are
Yes.
open to learning from each
Yes.
other. So speaking of learning, you went to Spelman, you got a degree in psychology.
Yes.
Was there anyone there that was influential to you?
Well, so many. I would say, first of all, like my besties, who are friends with, I had four of us, I had four other roommates at Spelman my freshman year. We are all friends till to this day, one of which is getting her doctorate tomorrow. So congratulations,
Wow.
Dr. Spells. They were great because we all came in as pre-med concentration folks. None of us are medical doctors, but they were like my initial support structure, and like the visibility of like what it looks like to be diverse women, Black women in the spaces. And, of course I have that in my family, I have it in other places, but you see it in school and higher education. It was great. But like, so them, my immediate roommates, amazing. Then I had professors who were really great. We have a special class in Spelman called ADW. So one of my professors there, I think just Sosa Shepherd, she was great. But the other two would be my senior year advisor, who introduced me to JD PhD programs. And then my study abroad advisor, who really just helped me think through what it looked like to go and study abroad for a year and how to make sure that happened with ease. And so those three additional teachers plus my roommates would be my influential folks at Spelman.
So you took a gap year between university and then you went to Villanova, right? Law school. And so did you study abroad?
Yeah, so I studied abroad my senior year. So I actually did 2 study abroads at Spelman. I did a summer study in Dominican Republic, and then I did my junior year study at University of Sussex in Brighton, England, pre-med still at the time. But I did that because I wanted to experience other parts of the world. When I was younger, I had the opportunity to do a summer study in Russia. And so I just wanted to continue to have some of those life experiences that I think traveling brought to you, and just seeing what it would like to be in university somewhere else, right? Because I chose Spelman. So why not do university in England and see what that's like?
And also, like, from the perspective of seeing different points of view, being open, hearing
Yeah.
where other people are coming from. Like, you get that, right? From going to different
Yeah.
countries and hearing how they
Yes,
see life.
absolutely. I think studying abroad was, if you're listening to this and you're in law school and you have the opportunity to go abroad, do it. I wish I kind of did in law school, because that's like, why not see how the system works somewhere else with this lawyer training lens? I didn't do that in law school, doing it too much in law school. But yeah, I think it did. It's interesting you pointed that out. I don't think anyone has pointed it out like that, but I've always been a curious kid. My mom used to say I asked all the questions, and like I was always like, why, and I talked a lot. Um, so I think fast forward, like that curiosity has always guided me. Like, okay, well, what if I? What if I has always been like a core philosophy on how I operated? Ask for things, try things, explore things, move around, study abroad, right? And so hearing you say that, it's like, oh yeah, I guess that is a pattern of like exploration, of being open to what it looks like to see another perspective and to take it in and to process it without judgment on it.
The understanding sometimes comes later.
Yes, right, because you're
And,
processing. It didn't really.
and that's okay. So then you go to Villanova. How was that experience? I mean, being in law school, extremely competitive and all that, but what did you get from that experience?
Villanova was something. I will say this. I enjoyed law school. I know that sounds odd. I did not. I enjoyed my classes because I was a JD PhD student. I was in law school for 5 years, supposed to be in law school for 6 years. We petitioned to get out in 5 because we were like, this is too long. We need to pass the bar.
Wow.
So can we get out? Yes. So, but I went into law school as a JD student with the drive to get into the PhD program, because I didn't have enough of the prerequisite exams to get in to apply fully. You needed to LSAT, subject GRE, and the GRE. And I couldn't get subject GRE scores back in time. So I went to law school saying, I'm going to get into this program. I'm going to score in the top of the class. I'm going to get into this program. I got into the program. So that was great. I really loved, I did not finish my PhD. So I'm a proud PhD dropout today, was not proud back in the day, was very upset about it for many years. But law school at Villanova was interesting. I want to say, I'm not shocked at some of the lawyers that exist that are maybe arguing against the rule of law today after going to Villanova, because I felt like I had a few of those in my law school class. You know, it reminded me of going from Spelman, where the same things exist in a historically Black college or university. So for those who don't know Spelman, it's a historically Black college. It is an all-women's college. It's based in Georgia. We are super small. You could stand in the middle of Spelman, spin around, and you saw our entire campus. That's like how small it is, right? My graduating class was 400 plus people. So we are a super small school. We're a part of a larger community, larger university community, but Spelman itself is really small. Then I went to Villanova, which is still a small school, but Villanova had a reputation that I didn't probably fully pay attention to because I went at the JD PhD program. But when I went in, I felt it. I was at Villanova during a difficult time at Villanova. I had some good high times and some whatever times, but we had some really great deans at the time, not the main dean, but everyone else was really great. Some great professors who were really impactful for me. And when I was in my PhD program, I would say I had some really great ones there. But Villanova showed me the diversity that exists in thought and law, that some of the diversity is, in my perspective, not as problematic, but it existed. And they argued that point. And it got you to really say, okay, how do you show up? How do you show up with people who are going to be defending the rule of law that have very problematic views of the law? And I probably did not think that we would be where we are today, and maybe I shouldn't go that far, but some of that existed at Villanova. And I, at the time, was still the type of student that spoke up, that pushed back, I was on Black Law Students Association, and we had an issue with, name calling in our school. We had an issue with a student coming in blackface at law school, and we spoke up about it. We didn't back down. And I think all those things helped me grow in confidence to be the person that I show up to today because of those experiences, right? Like everything happens. And so Villanova, I would say, was great experience, an interesting experience, and it set me up for where I am today. There you go.
Well, there's a lot of definitely diversity of opinions and views there.
Yeah, I know.
How did they manifest themselves in some of the steps you took after law school? Like one of the positions was at labor relations, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean, not that one in particular necessarily, but in some of the work that you did prior to founding your own law firm, what did you get from that? Like, how did you, embody those lessons learned?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think the JD PhD experience together, it was a big undertaking for me at the time that, like I said, I didn't finish for a range of reasons, but it also allowed me to step a little bit more into who I am. I don't think my first job, I was fully ready too early, too young. It's hard to be that vocal about things that aren't maybe ideal, but I think it was starting of the confidence building of who I am and like my understanding and processing of issues, the law. I think what we learned in law school, issue spotting, analyzing, synthesizing, has played itself through all aspects of my life. I came out of law school in '07, market crashed in '08. So I had to be very resourceful and to grow my career. And I went on my own as a result of the market crashing, really. Not because, again, I was planning to be an entrepreneur. I kind of like fell into entrepreneurship. But I don't think my initial jobs it supported. I think my later jobs, I would say, me going out on my own, I think that foundational, because I had a professor, rest in peace, it was Professor Turkington at law school, who told me Villanova is great at teaching you the theory of the law and that you need to learn how to practice. Labor law wasn't probably where some of my Villanova training fully came in. I think it was after when I actually started my practice, and those experiences, those practical experiences in my civil justice clinic or my practical experiences interviewing clients when I was in my PhD program, that really helped. And that's what's really kind of brought over to where I am today.
So let's talk a little bit about that, because one moment I'd like to feel how it went for you, like what it was like for you to start your own law firm. It must have been a bit scary to take that jump. What was that moment like?
I feel like I didn't have another choice. So the civil justice clinic was super helpful because I actually worked with clients. Had to deal with a client that was, in this case, had a mental health issue. So my psych training also supported a lot in that. But I felt like I needed to take a hold of my growth and that I am going to be the biggest pusher, biggest supporter of my own destiny. And that meant even when I worked for my company, I made sure I got trainings. I was learning from others that were more experienced because I knew even in that setting that I needed to control my learning. And so that just transferred when the market crashed. A couple of years later, you're out, you're not growing, you need to figure this out. I think at that time, I didn't think about it in that way. It was just like, what will keep me growing? What won't stop my growth? Where can I learn? And taking all the learning, doing all the things, that's not going to be enough. You have to actually just be out there, continue to grow. So was I scared? I don't know. My reflection back, I'm sure I was. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I read books. Carolyn, I read her book. I found her book. I talk to her about it all the time. I pull that book out and I look at it and I was like, I just need to figure out how to do something different. That worked for me. And coming from a company where I got paid on time all the time, I was like, well, I just want to get paid, right? And I just did what I was told, bill by the hour and go. So I wasn't scared as much as I was just like, well, let's see what happens. At least that's the way I reflect on it today. Probably
Yeah.
in 2010, I might have been like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing.
Well, one thing that I'm curious about that I'm sure the audience is that you made this transition from being a lawyer, running your own law firm, to at some point, the idea of subscription services, flat fees, that really got you? Like you got very excited about that. And I'm curious about like, what was that? Like, where did that come from? Why did you start going down that path, which you've, now fully realized with your work with Fidu? Like, what was the impetus behind that?
Market crashing, getting two clients back to back that stopped paying, and
Mm,
cases I couldn't get out of. Like it was out of necessity too. I did law the way people said you were supposed to do law. Get an hourly rate, get a retainer, bill against the retainer, send them invoice, get paid. I missed the memo that, oh, people don't always get paid when you send that invoice. I missed the memo that clients don't truly understand what's happening in legal. Now I was a young attorney, so I think with more time, I would have learned more of those things, but I had a need to make money. The market had crashed, the growth opportunities were limited. And at this point, I was like, I needed to grow. And so coming out of law school, I went into a company, I didn't go into a firm. And that experience led me to say, oh, a lawyer can get paid consistently, can show up, can support businesses in a way that doesn't look like billing by the hour. We didn't track time that way inside of the company. Yes, we had to bill our different individual lines of business or give an accounting to my boss on what lines of business I was working on, but it wasn't like to track to the minutia. It was high level general understanding. And then at that same time when I was working at the company, I also did a lot of I did leadership training and I did negotiation training. And
mm.
all those things together with my psychology training just started saying, well, I don't have to do it like this. Oh, I see all these other companies billing this way. I just wanted to, and I didn't call it subscriptions. I literally just wanted to get paid on time all the time. I wanted to get paid like I got paid in a company. I wanted to not chase people after money. I didn't want to have this friction. And I first went to flat fees because I just wanted to get paid. I wanted to get what I thought was the right amount paid. And then when that happened and you had the ebbs and flows, I was like, well, I want to get paid like a paycheck. How do I do that? And then I was like, well, these other companies are doing this thing. Why can't I just charge you monthly for just showing up and you pay me? And my first client said yes. And that's kind of how it went. It wasn't like I had the best package thing, the best price thing. It was totally underpriced, but it was to solve the need of getting paid on time all the time, to stop chasing and to wanting to grow in my career and not struggle every single moment to find the next client and get paid and a paycheck and manage all the things around trust accounting that I felt like was hovering over my head that could make me lose my license too.
And I think that's good for anyone out there in the audience to hear that's even, that's thinking about flat fees and subscription programs, because I think that a lot of people initially they have hesitancy, a little bit of fear about it because they're worried about the race to the bottom, not getting paid enough. And actually, from what you're saying, like the opposite is the case because you sometimes can sell yourself short with an hourly rate because it looks good, but you don't always collect.
Nobody always ever collects. Like, more power to you if you were that special person that always collects, because that meant you built 100% right, that and even if you do always collect, you always are collecting after the fact also.
With all that experience,
Mhm.
how did it come together to form Fidu? Essentially being the software incarnation, the technology company
Mhm.
incarnation of that. How did that come together?
Yeah, so I practiced a long time. A lot of people told me it wouldn't work. And I was like, okay. So I wanted to I went to all these CLEs. I was talking to, and I did it in the business side. So I was talking to all these lawyers about how they working, how do you get clients and trying to figure this out. And I was trying to okay, well, how do I keep growing? And when I started to do this, people kept on telling me it didn't work. So I kind of just went inward and just try to figure it out, try to find technology that worked, try to find tools and people that would make sense to me, try to apply what worked on my life. And then friends who knew me started tagging me in these conversations about people asking about, I want to do this thing. I don't think it'll work. And they're like, well, she's doing it and she's been doing it. Talk to her. And that was around 2017, 2018 time where people just started tagging me and stuff and in the Facebook groups or the groups. Really, I think it was Facebook. And people would introduce me to people. And then that led into me starting to coach and train and try to figure out how can I teach somebody what I did, right?
Mhm.
And all the iterations of trying to teach it eventually led to coming up with a framework that eventually led to me coaching and teaching others to grow and scale their businesses in the same way. That then led to Fidu. So Fidu is a COVID baby. So during COVID, my co-founder sent me a message. It was like, it's either Buongiorno or Bomb Bomb. I can't remember. It's like, this isn't a sales call. This is just like, I have a proposal. What if we like built this thing together? And at that point in like 2020, I had been involved in legal tech at this point. I've gotten some awards. I think I was judging Launch Code at the time. I was like in this space, testing a lot of tech, knowing a lot of legal tech founders, giving my thoughts because I just wanted to find the best tech tools that supported my model. So I test everything. That's why, right? And then he pitched me on this, and that's what it led to. And we worked together for a couple of months quietly to see if we can work together. And then we came out live with, Fidu in 2021. And kind of the rest is a little bit of history. But Fidu is based off of my real life experience and like just iteration, test, tweak.
Right. And individually, you've received awards and recognition, but also like with Fidu, almost out the gate.
Yeah.
It was Startup Alley, right?
Yeah, so we won Launch Code first.
Yeah.
We were finalists in Startup Alley, and then we did some other pitch competitions that we've won and since then.
It's amazing. And it's a great product. Check it out.
Thank you.
But, so I want to touch on a couple of topics of the day. Like one is that there's a lot of talk about AI. It seems like we're just overwhelmed with it every single day about how it's changing
Yes.
our profession. And I'm curious about what you think most people get wrong about it and how they got to think about it the right way. And what is that right way?
What do I think people get wrong? So the dramatic answer is how we work is just going to transform, right? And I know a lot of us are saying that, but I think it's like way more fundamental. Like, for example, we have this conversation at Fidu. I think SOPs are not a thing anymore, right? I think SOPs matter as an infrastructure for tech, but not as a thing that you need to design as a person. Because we are limited in our SOP design because we don't have the social science background to understand, what and how a person learns and create enough of that to go across their journey of working with you. Learning changes, habits change, attention, all these like underlying, and that's my psych side coming in, that, that helps us understand human behavior. We as individuals don't have enough of that at our disposal to truly make great SOPs, for example. But what I think technology, particularly generative AI and all the manifestations that are coming from this, allow for us is to bring more social science, as long as we're thinking inclusive and, we're regulating and we're understanding bias that exists. But it allows for us to potentially integrate a much more inclusive way of designing infrastructure to help people support outputs in ways that we couldn't have done before. First of all, no one knows. I think everyone wants to be the person about it. But I think when you have thoughtful people like yourself who take the time to go deeper about what's happening in AI across industries and just across the world, biggest thing is I think it's going to change everything. I think the 5-day work week, we're going to struggle with this for a bit soon. Someone said this to me, and I don't remember who it was, so it's not my full thought, but I agree that industrial revolution, and I hate this word, but impacted blue collar work, whatever that means, right? This is impacting white collar work, whatever that means, right? That we need to transform because this world is built on have and have nots, and the have nots tend to not be in the jobs that are now being most impacted by generative AI. And so I think maybe this is a resetting of the world. This is a resetting of what's important. I used to always say, what's important is know how to build a fire, knowing how to understand poisonous, fruit from the next one. Like those things don't change, right? What does change is, okay, my ability to synthesize now can be fast tracked. I still have to have the underlying knowledge. And so I don't know. I think we are doing too much in legal specifically, and also doing too little at the same time, because the same people that are investing in the very baseline ways to solve and not actually going for and supporting, as we said, going back to the very beginning, the diverse perspectives so that we can actually solve something bigger. The same people are being funded. The same people are creating basic things. And we're not actually embracing what this transformation could be.
A lot of great thoughts, and I hope that one stays with people because it really is about innovation, not just making what we've done before faster,
Yes. Yes.
thinking
It's like
differently.
if it's truly going to transform, then let's let it transform. Then stop funding the same people. Let's get creative. Let's bring true curiosity to every single thing that we do, not just legal, but everything that we do, and think more holistically about where our role, if now I'm talking legal, where our role sits in this world and how we can truly support more equality, more inclusion, how we can actually solve, the world's problems. I hope that those that have the resources stop funding the same people and start funding people. That includes me, right? Those
Yeah.
underserved folks that are looking to and have bring a different perspective, that let's help the dollar cabs actually realize that idea into something that changes the world.
So one thing I wanted to ask you about before we end is you like this phrase that we had talked about off camera before we came on about every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. And I think it's, a song by Semisonic. What's the idea behind the new beginnings?
I think we're at a time for folks to be creative and curious, for folks to ask the question I love to ask myself: what if I? What if you just tried something new, approached it in a different way? What if you just asked somebody the question that you've been wanting to ask about how you can serve them better, support them better, and what would that unlock?
Mm.
And I see so many amazing founders in this legal space that are not getting the shine that they deserve, right? And I want all of us to question how we are showing up to bring more creativity and curiosity to solving the problems that exist today so that we can get to the answers faster, because we do have the resources, particularly in legal. All these investors are throwing money at us. Let's spread that out. Let's get creative. Let's actually have this incubation time to really solve big things. We are a failing industry today. Any other thing, anytime you took a test and you got less than 30%, I don't think my parents wouldn't have been happy when I was younger. And that's our score. That's how many people we serve, right? Less than 30%. So how can we be creative and curious to do better, to show up better, to bring more perspectives to the law and to what the law is meant to do? And that's kind of the space where I'm at. And I'm hoping to see as we are in this massive transformation that's ahead of us, and that we're currently in, I should say.
Well said. That leads me to the last two questions I have that I ask all the guests. The first one is, obviously you have a lot that you're into and a lot that's going on. What advice might you have for the audience about how you keep it all up in the air? How do you keep it balanced?
So first of all, I would say I don't believe in balance. I do believe in flow, and that, you have to find the flow that works for you and identify the places where you can have roadblocks, hiccups, just the way you operate. And I will say, when I dropped out of my PhD program, my advisor at the time told me, Kim, you have all of the training. Like, I dropped out like 1 or 2 classes for my PhD. I needed to defend my master's and then go start and defend my pitch and then defend my dissertation. So I wasn't that far off, and it was hard for me to do that. But she said, you have this training, and I think it's served me well. And so I had to go back to her and say thank you when she told me that years later, like, she was right. And I say all this to say, right now, you need the support around you. You need to leverage all of your life lessons, learnings, experiences to recognize when you are doing too much, or to get the support to help you recognize it. And I've done those things over the years. I'm not perfect at it at all. Like I said, a recovering perfectionist. And sometimes I did too much, and sometimes I do too much. It's just assessing it and identifying it, and then trying to design a life that works for who you are. That's what I've tried to do. I am a night owl, so I've designed my life to be a night owl. I leverage technology to make that work. I schedule emails. So if you're getting email from me at 7:15, best believe I am not awake. I scheduled that. It might be 7:18 to be, funny, to make it not so obvious. But I think design the life for you. Show up the way that feels good for you. Be authentically you, because there's so many other things that you have to maybe put up things to protect yourself, that if you can do your best to as much as possible be you, it becomes easier to move through life and to not burn yourself out and to create spaces and communities that will uplift you and support you when things get harder. So that's hopefully answers the question.
It does, and I think it's great advice. Brings me to the last question, though. And the last one, actually, it connects to that, which is at the end of the day, after doing all you do, like what makes it worthwhile for you?
Each phase of my life, it's adjusted, but I think ultimately it's like what impact it's having. Me personally, me professionally, well, personally, professionally, and then like kind of like my public persona. I do it because it gives me the freedom to take time off when I need. I have a 99-year-old, about to be a 100-year-old grandfather, and having this, my own business, has given me the ability to see him multiple times this year, to travel with him, right? I don't think I would have had that opportunity. So there's a lot of personal, right? It gives me the ability to build a relationship and nurture a relationship in ways with my fiance that I couldn't if I was in some other working environments, particularly in the law. Professionally, allows me to serve the clients I wanted to. And when I was in my law firm, work with clients that I felt matched the value set that I had, to design the firm that I wanted and to double down on that. But then also watch and support other people creating impact professionally. So the drive of seeing the work that I do support a bigger piece was really important to me as a firm owner. And then now in that coaching consulting, now having Fidu World, I would say they're kind of all in the same because I still do the coaching consulting alongside Fidu. It's like the impact it can have on the industry, which actually means impact on the people who deserve access to legal services, impact to communities that are not being served, not because they don't need it, not because they don't want it, because we have specifically and intentionally designed it for them not to have access to it. And if I'm able, through Fidu, to help enable legal professionals or legal, whether that's a lawyer, a paralegal, someone who's now a consultant who used to be a lawyer, unlock more access for people, that is important to me. That's important to make legal less burnout heavy, less focused on substance abuse for those of us that are in this industry. All of those matter, and that's kind of what drives me. The impact that I can create for myself, for my family, for those that I support and clients, and then for the bigger industry. Because I think ultimately the activist side of me still lives from my grandmother, for caring about justice. And I don't think the industry today actually lives up to what it's supposed to.
Thank you for those words of wisdom, Kim. I want to thank you for the impact that you have made. You've gotten people to think differently and hopefully move the legal industry in a more just, fair, and actually for lawyers themselves, a more reflective and productive way of being.
Thank you.
Well, for everyone who's been watching and they want to learn more about you, Fidu, and how they can use everything that you've learned to their advantage, how can they keep in touch with you?
Yeah, I'm on across social. My handle is Kay Bennett Law. You'll be able to find me. LinkedIn. I'm mainly on Threads. I don't do X. I don't do that. But everything else, you'll find me. And then for Fidu, we're our Fidu app across socials, or we're Fidu on LinkedIn, fidulegal.com. We have free resources. Go grab them. Start that process. Don't stay stuck. And if you have a question, just reach out. hello@fidulegal.com. I think the only thing that's keeping people from moving to where they want to be is just testing the thing. It doesn't have to be perfectly built. You just have to try it. Pitch it to a client. Rip off that Band-Aid of hourly if it's keeping you stuck. But reach out if you need support. We're here. I'm here. I'm excited to see where this industry goes.
Well, thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you.
Follow Kim Fidu. It's not just about efficiency. It's also about leading a fulfilling legal life. So keep in touch with her. And thank you so much for watching. See you next time.
Thank you so much for watching the latest episode of the Law Droid Manifesto podcast. To keep in the loop about upcoming episodes, please subscribe to Law Droid Manifesto and you'll get notified. Thanks for watching. See you next time.